environmental disaster, mass unemployment, immigration, open borders, bailouts and derivatives, mass media distraction, war. How are these things connected? To find out, join us at the Grassroots Connection, Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 p.m. on WOIC, 1230 a.m.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows. That's how it goes. Everybody knows. Everybody
And welcome back to the final segment of the Grassroots Connection. And again, we have special guest Karen Meyer Hopkins of Grand Isles, Louisiana, and we've been talking about some of the major issues they're facing in their area and seeing where we can lend a hand. Of course, that's what we want to do. So without any further delay, we're going to get right back into it, but wanted to mention I had a caller who has been diligent in his work, because I didn't even know about this. He mentioned that any of my listeners can go to www.ngm, that's N as in national, G as in graphic, and M as in magazine.com, and they've done what he says is a really good story with lots of pictures, lots of information on what's going on in the Gulf. Also, Karen's mentioned that actually Kendra, a lot of people will recognize that name. She's a real big activist in this issue as well. Kendra Anderson was interviewed by National Geographic. So this issue is probably really good. We probably need to check it out and see what National Geographic is reporting and what they are not, because we know that sometimes they just conveniently leave out some things. Let's just put it that way, okay? We're not going to prejudge until we read, so let's just see what it is and what it's about. All right, so let's get back into it with our guest and see if she's there. Are you still there, Karen?
I am still here.
Great. Let's see here. Wanted to talk about the FDA sitting on its hands on a warning about Ciguatera, the toxin.
Yes.
And maybe you can do a little of explaining of what that is and why would the EPA kind of not warn us? Why would they do that?
It was the FDA. Okay. I had to become quite the expert on Ciguatera toxin in November of 2007, because we buy fin fish from all over the Gulf of Mexico.
Yes, ma'am.
We bought greater amberjack fish from a commercial fisherman who has been doing this all of his life. Off of the coast of Louisiana, we have one coral reef, and it's called the Flower Banks Garden National Sanctuary. Well, a lot of our fishermen fish around there because fish gather around coral reefs, so it's a great place to go. Our recreational fishermen go and they catch a grouper and red snapper, and that's it's just
a sweet spot.
It is absolutely.
Yeah.
So we bought this amberjack fish, 600 somewhat pounds of it, and all of the fish were relatively large, over 30, 35 pounds each. We sold the fish to a processor. The processor then sold it to a distributor, and the distributor then sold it to the restaurants in St. Louis, Missouri. And 6 people ate off of that lot of amberjack and were made ill and were displaying symptoms of Ciguatera poisoning.
Not good.
Not good. Because of HACCP regulations, you have to know where a recall begins and where it ends in case of a food outbreak.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have to track all of our fish and shrimp, and we have to know who sold us what, and that's just part of the business. So it was eventually tracked down to us and to the fishermen, and the FDA paid us a visit to make sure that our HACCP plan was in order.
Right.
We were scrutinized by the FDA. We were left with a clean bill of health as far as our HACCP regulations. And about a month later, we got a lawsuit paper in the mail.
Oh, no.
They were suing us for placing a defective product on the market, suing us for damages, the people who were made ill. So I started doing some research into ciguatera toxin.
Yeah, I bet you did.
And I ran into a guy who is a writer for a Galveston paper, and he had done quite a bit of research on ciguatera because he heard about the outbreak in the Northern Gulf. When he heard the people had became ill, because it was national news.
Yes.
He went after it. It just started writing stories about it and researching it. I ran into him, and he and I became friends, and he emailed all the stories to me. And I found out that there is no way to tell if a fish is infected with the ciguatera toxin.
Well, how do you protect yourself from distributing contaminated fish if there's no test?
There's no reliable way. The only test that can be done on the fish to determine whether they have ciguatera is through the FDA's very sophisticated and expensive laboratory testing procedures, which takes months to go through, or to feed it to an animal and see if it gets sick.
Wow.
There's no way. The fish looks the same. It smells the same. It looks like a healthy fish. You can't cook it out. You can't boil it out. It is in there. And it follows up the food chain.
Well,
so the only way to protect yourself...
Yeah, that's where I was going, is
the
how do
only
we
way,
know?
The only way to protect yourself from this is it's found mostly in king mackerel. King mackerel. It's barracuda. It's found in greater amberjack. It's found in large groupers. Now, we're talking about if you want to eat amberjack, greater amberjack, that's well and good, but make sure that it's a small fish. Make sure that it's a 3 or a 4 pound fish. The larger the fish gets, the more likely it is that the fish has ciguatera.
Okay.
It's found in pelagic fish, which pelagic fish is fish that travels from one part of the Northern Gulf all the way down to the Carolinas. They follow the weather patterns.
Okay.
And king mackerel does that. So we're still right now going through litigation. We found out that the FDA knew in 2006 that there was a ciguatera outbreak in the northern Gulf of Mexico.
And they didn't mention that to anybody?
They never released the inter-office memo.
Oh.
Mark Collette at Galveston News is the author of all the stories I'm telling you about. He got his hands on a copy of the inter-office memo, and it directly specifies that ciguatera toxins are in our northern Gulf, and they sat on it. And the memo was not released until January of 2008, after the people became ill.
You know, they don't really care about us anyway. I mean, just to be honest here, we know that these guys are not very good at their jobs. I don't know why we have an FDA to begin with, but this new legislation they're bringing out, I think is even worse. But you know, before we get out of here, we've got a few minutes. I wanted to talk about the outbreak of MRSA that's going on. I've been doing a little, research on it, and my understanding is that some of these microbes that they've put in the water to eat the oil are hyped up genetically and are flesh-eating microbes at this point. I've seen pictures of rashes and just lesions all up and down people's legs that have gotten into this water.
That's what we're learning. We're learning. I think Dr. Ricky Ott did an article not too long ago. In fact, it was published on the 20th, if I'm not mistaken, in the Huffington Post.
Yes.
And we're actually terrified. I mean, Mercer has always been around, and it's always been one of the bane of the commercial fishermen. But there's something with these oil-eating microbes that she believes, and so do a few others. It's a gram-negative bacteria that's being mutated.
Right.
Because of something that is a component of either the oil-eating bacteria, or the Corexit. And a lot of people are thinking, and it's a quote in the article, is this a perfect storm?
Well, it sure looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's they're saying an exploding population of opportunistic gram-negative bacteria, millions of gallons of food for the bacteria, and a susceptible population of stressed-out people.
How in the world are they allowing tourists to get in that water?
That's a question that I've been asking people all around me all this time. On the 23rd, when we went out on a boat to take pictures, we took pictures of oil on the water. We took pictures of oil in the sand. And those waters are open for commercial and recreational fishing and swimming.
That's incredible.
And once we got out of the boat and onto the beach, and we were trying to leave the area, we had to go through decontamination processes.
And they didn't do that for the tourists who happened to be out there, did they?
No.
This is insane. Somebody has to say something about this.
This is happening in Louisiana. It's happening in Florida. It's happening in Mississippi. It's happening in Alabama. It's all about the almighty dollar. It's about the tourist dollar. It's about the tax dollars that the tourists bring in.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to say before we get out of here, maybe it's possible we need to bring litigation against some of these cities and towns that are allowing tourists to come in because they want that money, and they're endangering their lives by allowing them to get in that water. We know that the government knows this stuff. We know that doctors like Dr. Ott have the courage to come out and say what's going on. They don't have any excuse anymore.
No.
If people get ill, then, we need to go to court. We need to put some pressure on these people's back pocket. Maybe they'll learn, how to be honest. Maybe they won't. I don't care. I just want, the people who have been victimized by their obfuscation to get some justice here. And I know there's some politicians out there listening right now. Where are you people?
That's
what
right.
are you doing?
That's right. In fact, I'm looking at the screen right now at the chat, and Gulf Lady, and I know this, Kendra and Joni. We have 6 other coastal warriors, according to Gulf Lady, and I know Kendra and Joni are both in the hospital.
Yeah.
And they're ill from chemical poisoning. It's a crime. It's a crime of the century. I think it's probably the crime of generations.
I think so,
We
too.
haven't seen anything, of this magnitude since Hitler marched across Germany.
Absolutely. And the fact is, with the media just basically not covering it, they're complicit. I say they're complicit along with those politicians, and we need to do something about it. But I know, Karen, that music means we're out of here. Unfortunately, we could talk all day, but I got to go.
Anytime you need information, you know where to find me.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll talk to you later. We'll get this information up and into our archives. You'll be able to go right to my website, GRC Network, Grassroots Connection website. Go into GRC archives, and you'll be able to pull this show through YouTube and post these videos all over the place. I want them all over the place. Thank you so much for joining the Grassroots Connection, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.